How violent is In a Violent Nature? It's pretty violent, but is it a good movie? Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about In a Violent Nature, which comes to theaters on May 31st, 2024. It is a new slasher film that has a great commitment to practical effects, but is this worth your time? Well, my hot take is I actually think you should pass on it, which kind of pains me to say it because I liked a lot about what this movie did, but overall, it is a gruesome movie. It is a violent movie. It has a great commitment to practical effects and some pretty good sounds, but it is also not a very good movie. It's a slow movie. It is not that interesting. It takes a long time, has a long prodding pace. So overall, I actually didn't enjoy this, which is weird. This is a movie that I would have expected to love, but I didn't. So I definitely think you should pass on it. But all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn off when I get to the ending section. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So, in A Violent Nature, you have a group of teens who take this locket from this collapsed fire tower. And after they do that, some horrible things start happening around this campground. A lot of violent things happen in nature, in a violent nature. And do these teens survive? Do they figure out what's going on? And who is this person that keeps plodding around? Well, you'll have to watch the movie to find out. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the sound. It has really great sound. Like it has a nice like crunching sound of the leaves. Johnny the killer like walks very methodically and it's got a good pace for that. It has good nature sounds. It takes place in nature. You hear like birds and nature sounds throughout, which is really nice. And it is a slasher movie, so there are good sounds also when things happen, violent, gruesome things happen. The second thing I love the practical effects. This has a commitment to practical effects. It's a really solid commitment to practical effects. There are some gruesome ways that people die, and it looks fantastic. There's a few that look so-so, but for the most part, it is gross. It is visceral. It is full of viscera, and it's a really kind of nice throwback to the slasher film. So those things I like. Things I didn't like about this movie. The first, it's kind of boring. It is very boring. And some of this is related to the second thing I didn't love, but it is a movie that is fairly unique because it's kind of from the killer's perspective. You get the majority of the movie from the killer's perspective. So you're behind the killer, you're watching the killer walk, and the killer walks very methodically and very deliberately. The bump, 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 bump pace, and you're just following him as he goes around places. And it's interesting at some points, but oftentimes it's very slow. And it leads to a very slow paced film as the killer is plodding through and you're waiting for that next kill, and it takes a very long time to get there. Second thing I didn't love, very much related to the slowness, the perspective. Again, this is from the killer's perspective. So it's interesting at some points because you get to kind of see where the killer goes. But you lose some of that magic because you don't get to see the killer just like appear somewhere because you see him walking here and then there. And also, you don't get any sort of connection with your typical slasher teens, the people that are being killed. You have no connection with them because you barely spend any time with them. You're from the killer's perspective, so you kind of can see them off in the distance. You hear their conversations, but you're not participating in it for the most part. There's like one scene where you kind of are in a campfire circle, but you don't get enough time with them to really get to know them. And then a lot of it is like seeing them from outside, seeing them from like outside the building, and you just don't get a good emotional connection with any of the characters. Not even the killer, because the killer doesn't really have much of an emotional arc. It's just a violent spirit. So it really doesn't help. I mean, it is a unique perspective. It is different, but I don't think it makes for a better movie. And the last thing I didn't love the writing. It is kind of your typical slasher writing. It doesn't seem to add much. It has, just enough to kind of keep the plot moving, to kind of like keep the characters going, but it's not that interesting. It's not that, it's not that engaging. It is just enough to kind of like give these teens something to do, give this one teen like a reason to be off in the woods, etc. So, In a Violent Nature is coming to theaters on May 31st, 2024. Like I said, I think you should probably pass on it. I did not like this movie very much. I expected to love it. I expected to absolutely love it. I don't know why It has a like a 90% Rotten Tomatoes. It makes no sense to me. But you know what? Sometimes I disagree with the critics, and that's fine. I don't think you should watch it, but if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I would love to hear it. And I'm gonna really quickly go into the ending right now. So if you don't know what happened to this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, like I said, the movie starts with a group of teens, and I don't really remember any of their names. None of them are really that important except for Chris. But they go to this, they're camping in the woods. They go to this like abandoned camp, collapsed fire tower. And for some reason, there is this gold necklace in the fire tower. And one of the teens is like, oh, that's pretty. And they're all like, yo, leave it. Like, there's probably a reason why there's a gold necklace here. Don't touch it. They all leave. And that one person who liked it grabs it. Usually not a good idea. Usually the start of a horror movie, and this is no exception. After they all leave, the ground starts to like move around, and you see this person emerge. And it's this mountain of a person. It's a large person, big hands, big body, built solid, like definitely like a brick house there. Gets up and starts moving, looking for the necklace. And this was a nice scene. I liked this scene. I liked how he got up because the sound was really nice. Like, you know, the earth was moving. There were leaves there. You could hear them crunch as he was getting up. There were some chains for some reason. You could hear those moving as well. It was a nice introduction to this character. And then he starts moving and he just starts walking in a slow, deliberate pace through the forest. The first place he goes is to some house that's nearby, and you hear an argument. I think the ranger is like getting mad at the person there for like setting traps in the park and that they're dangerous and they could hurt someone. And so the killer goes into the house and sees this gold locket. And then you see this like weird CG kind of flashback where he's looking in the mirror and he sees his parents or a picture of his parents, and they say like, this locket's from your mother. You know, she wants you to have it. It's his dad giving him this locket. So clearly the locket that the teen stole had some sort of importance to him. So he gets the locket, and that is when the owner of this house comes in and is upset. He like shoots at the killer, he misses, and the killer goes and like takes him out and kills him. And then you see what this locket is, and the locket is a little locket that says like number one mother effer. And you also see the person who's died, his hat has that as well. So it doesn't seem like this is the locket that his mother had. Maybe, I don't know, maybe his mother was really cool. I don't know. But it isn't. It isn't the locket. It isn't his locket. He mistook it, and so he killed this person, got the locket. It's not his locket. He has to go keep looking. He has to go find them. He has to go find his locket. So he goes to where the teens are all hanging out, and they're all hanging out. They're messing around. You can see that, you know, there's like two teens that are kind of in a relationship. The other teens are just kind of like throwaways essentially. And oh, and while these teens are around the campfire, while they're hanging out, they tell this story about this like massacre that happened, and it was essentially the years ago. This was like more of a logging community, and so the loggers were there, and there was one kid who was in the logging community. This kid named Johnny, who was apparently a little slow. And one day, one of the loggers like broke his ankle or foot on one of Johnny's toys, and they got really pissed at him. And so they wanted to teach Johnny a lesson, like don't leave your toys out. And so they told Johnny there was like candy up in this old fire tower. And so Johnny went up there, and when he got to the top, one of the loggers was like waiting with a fireman's mask on to like scare him and like spook Johnny. And he did spook Johnny, and Johnny fell off the fire tower and hit his head and broke his neck and died. So the loggers didn't want to get in trouble for this, so they put the fire mask on Johnny and like made it look like he was playing. Now, that might have been enough for the cops, but his father knew that something was up. He knew that Johnny wouldn't be up there. And so he starts raising the stink, and that causes a fight to break out, and some of the loggers kill his father. So you're like, that's horrible. Like a boy was killed and his father was killed. That's terrible. Well, apparently the actual massacre happened later. A week later, the company comes up to check on the place, and all the loggers are dead. They're all slaughtered. It looks like they were just like ripped apart by animals. And apparently, the logging company chalked it up to, an accident, paid off everyone, and closed the site down. But what people don't know what it is, but the rumor is that little Johnny, was so angry that he came back and murdered everyone and slaughtered everyone. They go into the cabin that night, and then that's when the killer like goes around the cabin. He looks in some windows. You don't see a ton, you don't hear a ton. Eventually he kills one of them who is like out alone smoking. He like takes a saw or a blade and like cuts the head in half, like at the mouth, essentially. And then for some reason, he carries that body to the ranger station. I don't know why. I don't know why he goes there. Maybe to suit up, because when he's there, he sees this display of like old firefighting implements. And he breaks that down, takes the mask, takes some of the tools, and now he has a persona. So now Johnny kind of like continues to go around the forest and kill people. He kills one person who's swimming in a lake. He kills one person who's doing yoga. That was a very gruesome kill. That was a well done kill. A little gratuitous, but that's fine. He like punches her through the stomach, and then uses a hook to like hook onto her head, like through her stomach. And there's a chain on the hook, and he pulls the chain out through the hole in her stomach and like completely contorts her because of that, and then kicks her down. It was a very, very violent scene for a violent nature. So Johnny then goes back to the cabin. Two people head out to the ranger station, and two people are left. Johnny is not pure violence. He is able to set traps, and he puts a stick on one of the car horns to like draw someone out. When that person's out there, he like hits him with an axe in his leg. But before he's able to kill him, someone else shoots him, and Johnny goes down. And the person's like, "Is he dead?" And like, "Yeah, I shot him. He's dead." And so they start moving. They go to get help. They try to get out of there. I don't know why they just don't jump in the car. I guess maybe they don't have the keys. The keys were thrown earlier. But Johnny's not dead. Even though he's down, even though he's not breathing, he eventually wakes back up. He gets up, starts moving, and like chucks an axe. And that axe must have flown like 50 feet. It was a long distance, lodges right in the person who was shot's head. And you don't see it, but you do see him throw the axe, and then you see like the overhead of him walking over, and he walks a very long ways. But kills that person, kills his friend who was already injured. He had an axe wound. That person gets his head crushed by a rock. And after they're dead, the two people who went off to the sheriff ranger station come back, and you see one of them, this girl named Chris. She is like freaking out because people are dead, and you see a necklace around her neck, and Johnny does too. Uh, Johnny's going for the necklace when her boyfriend tells her to watch out. She moves just in time as an axe like almost takes her out, but doesn't. They jump on this ATV and ride to the sheriff's station. Now, when they get to the sheriff's station, they're telling the story to the sheriff, and the sheriff basically confirms everything. He confirms that John, he's like, "Why did you take the necklace? Like, what did you do that? Do you know what you've unleashed?" Well, like, dude, if this necklace is so important, don't just leave it hanging on a stick. I don't know. Bury it with him. Put it in like a container. Put it like close off the fire tower. Put like plexiglass around it so it becomes like a look only display. Like do something. Don't just leave it hanging on some stick, being like, people will know not to touch this because it's a weird gold necklace in the middle of the woods. Like, no, of course not. Maybe even put a sign saying, "Don't touch this or you'll die." Anything. He gets mad at them. It's really kind of his fault. He gets mad at them for taking it, and then he tells them a little bit more about the story. So when the logging company people were slaughtered, not everyone was slaughtered. There was one survivor, and that was this ranger's father. This ranger's father was able to stop Johnny. He shot him, buried him in the under the fire tower, and put a gold necklace up there. And he told his son the story of this. His son never believed him until 10 years ago, when some other people took the necklace. Johnny awoke, and that son had to put Johnny down and bury him again. So now that ranger is ready to do it again. And here's Johnny. Here he comes. He's walking down towards the ranger station. The ranger grabs his shotgun, shoots him in the chest. Johnny goes down, and the ranger's like, "All right, we gotta go." He tells the boyfriend to go get some chains while he's holding the gun to Johnny. The boyfriend goes to get the chains. He's like, "Dude, like now go wrap his legs." And the boyfriend's like, I can't." Like, what? Why can't you? Like, what are you doing? You can't wrap his legs with chains. But the sheriff's like, "Okay," and he's super, super close to Johnny. He's got the gun keyed on his head. I don't know why he didn't just like shoot Johnny before they did the exchange. That would seem to get by them some time. He has the gun in his head. He's like, "All right, we're gonna trade the gun in three." And when they go to trade it, Johnny grabs the gun, puts it to the side. It goes off, but doesn't hit him. And now he and the ranger are fighting. The boyfriend and Chris run away. He and the ranger are fighting. Johnny eventually overpowers the ranger and kind of like knocks him out. And then he goes and like starts up this pneumatic device. And I was like, I thought Johnny was like a kid. I thought Johnny was slow. How does he know how to start up this pneumatic device? I don't know. It is a like pneumatic log cutter. It's like an axe that is behind like some sort of hydraulic piston, and so it can go and just like chop wood that way. And so Johnny takes the Ranger over there. First, he puts his arm there, and the thing goes and cuts the arm off. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be violent. Like he's gonna take him out piece by piece. I don't know why he didn't just do like the other arm and then the leg and the leg just to like prolong the suffering. But after he cuts off the arm, he then goes and cuts off the Ranger's head. So it was interesting. Like I would have expected it to prolong, even though it was already a long scene, but they don't. They just cut off the arm, then cut off the head. So now it is just the two kids left, Chris and her boyfriend. They're in the woods. They're trying to set a trap. Johnny's walking through. They're like distract. They get him to go somewhere, and they try to sneak around behind him, but one of them breaks a twig, and so Johnny stops and looks at them. And the boyfriend's like, "I'll distract him. You go set the trap. I'll distract him." And so the boyfriend sneaks up behind Johnny and starts yelling at him like, "Hey, like I'm right here. Like, what are you doing?" And thinking he's gonna distract him, Johnny is apparently a little distracted, but he turns around and just whacks him right in the face with an axe. Boom, boyfriend's down. Boyfriend goes down. Johnny hits him a bunch more, and he just basically goes to town on the boyfriend. I don't understand why. Like, I don't know why he went more violent on this person than anyone else. He like is working on him for like I don't know, 2 minutes, just like whack, whack, whack. Chris sees this. Chris doesn't like this. Chris decides, I'm out. And so she puts down the things they were going to set the trap with. It was like a bear trap and a thing of gasoline. She puts the necklace there and just like leaves. So she's running through the woods all night. She like is scared. She's confused. She hears the thwacking occasionally. And apparently at some point she fell, although you don't see this. Like she's just running through the woods at night crying, and then it's morning and there's a stick through her leg. And I'm like, when did that happen? Like, why didn't they show that? But I guess we're just supposed to understand that something happened to her. I was like, did Johnny do that and then leave her? Apparently not. Apparently she just fell and a stick impaled itself in her ankle. So she pulled the stick out, climbed up, went to the road, started like trying to find some help. Eventually, someone stops. She gets in the car. They're driving away, and I'm like constantly waiting for something to happen. Like Johnny's gonna run out. Johnny's gonna throw a log through their car. Johnny's gonna like fly from a tree and break them. Something. They're driving. The driver lady tells her a very boring story about some bear or something like that. I guess to pass the time and try to like reassure her, but it's really boring. And so eventually, because it's a boring story, and also because she is losing a lot of blood, Chris passes out. And the driver's like, "Hey, I gotta do something about this." She pulls over, she gets over, and she starts like essentially making a tourniquet for Chris. And Chris was like, "No, what are you doing? Like, get me to the hospital. Go, like, let's get out of here." And she's like, "Look, honey, you're gonna need to stop the bleeding. Like, we need to stop the bleeding. So you just have to wait here. I'm gonna stop it, and then I'm gonna take you to the hospital." And so she makes a tourniquet, and she wraps it like right at her ankle, which I would expect if it was a tourniquet, it would probably have to go to like I don't know the thigh. Isn't that where you're supposed to put a tourniquet to stop the bleeding for the leg? I'm not sure, but she eventually gets it on, and as she's doing this, Chris is just staring off in the woods, and this is clearly something to keep you on edge because you're waiting for Johnny to show up. You're waiting for Johnny to come through the woods or for something to happen. She's staring through the woods, and then we cut to the forest, and we see the forest. The camera pans to the forest. The camera pans over the trap. You see the bear trap, and you see the gas can, but there's no necklace. There's no necklace on there. So apparently, all Johnny wanted was his necklace. Once he was able to get the necklace, he stopped. I I assume he stopped. I mean, we don't see him again. That's the movie. That's it. I guess he could still be pursuing Chris, but I don't think so. I think once he gets a necklace, he's probably fine. He's probably gonna go take a little dirt nap, put that necklace back up on his little pole, and wait for the next stupid kid to grab it. So that is In a Violent Nature. Like I said, I think you should pass on it. I did not like it as much as I expected to. Clearly, I didn't like it very much at all. So I don't think you should check it out. But if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know. I mean, it had things going for it. It had a unique perspective. It had really good practical effects, but it just wasn't that interesting. It was fairly slow, and I didn't like having the killer's perspective. So that's In a Violent Nature. It's coming to theaters on May 31st, 2024. And if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. Let me know what I got right and wrong. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.